institution, teachers and students send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
The earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Hello and welcome. You're watching Race to Power. My name is Mohammed Saleh. We've got a lot lined up for you over the course of the next 20 minutes. But here are the top stories that we'll be taking a look at. The two assembly elections in India have produced two polar opposite mandates. The Bharatiya Janata Party is gearing up for a historic third term in the state of Haryana. But from the valleys of Jammu and Kashmir, the Abdullahs of the National Conference Party have made a pretty strong comeback in an election that is happening after a period of 10 years in Jammu and Kashmir. And less than 4 weeks to a never-seen-before American presidential election, the race is so close that even the pollsters and surveyors are revealing a bit of an unpredictable and an unclear voter sentiment in the United States. We'll be getting you all of these details, but first, let's take a look as to what, of course, is happening in Jammu Kashmir. So the assembly elections in India's Jammu and Kashmir and the state of Haryana have thrown up a pretty contrasting mandate. Let's start with the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir, where the National Conference and the Congress Alliance have won a clear majority. But what is interesting to note is that the Bharatiya Janata Party has made a pretty strong comeback in the state of Haryana, defeating not just the Congress and other parties, but also the exit pollsters. In both regions, 90 assembly constituencies were up for elections. In the valley, celebrations erupted amongst the supporters and workers of Jammu and Kashmir National Conference. So that was the seed of celebrations after the party led by the Abdullahs secured a clear mandate in Jammu and Kashmir, winning 42 seats. The party, in lines with the Congress that won 6 seats, will potentially be forming the next government. Omar Abdullah is likely to become the chief minister.
हम शायद इतनी सीटों की उम्मीद नहीं कर रहे। हम वहाँ से जीते हैं जहाँ से हमें लग रहा था जीत की कोई गुंजाइश नहीं है। अब जाहिर सी बात है कि लोगों की उम्मीदें हैं, चाहे वो हमारे मैनिफेस्टो को लेके हो, चाहे हमारे जो हमारे वादे हैं लोगों के साथ जो हमने किए हैं उनको लेके हो। अब हमारा फ़र्ज़ बनता है कि हम इस मैंडेट को समझें और उसके बाद इस मैंडेट को हम उसको रिस्पेक्ट करें और उस मैंडेट को लेके हम लोगों के लिए काम करें।
I'm joined by the President of National Conference, Dr. Farooq Abdullah. Sir, a landslide victory, National Conference winning the majority seats. How do you feel about it?
I'm grateful to God and then grateful to the people who have given us this mandate. with this hope that we'll be able to fulfill their wishes, bring them out the tragedies that have occurred in 10 years, give them freedom of press, freedom to walk freely without any coercion, and hope that we'll be able to get those people out of jail who, for telling the truth, have been put inside. It's a difficult task. We have to work because this state has suffered a lot.
Sir, has it been decided who the Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir would be now?
I'm sure the Chief Minister will be from Jammu and Kashmir's National Conference. And I'm confident that Umar Abdullah will head the government.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. That was Dr. Farooq Abdullah with video journalist Feroz Idris Loan for WION World is One.
Now this, of course, remember, is an election that gained significance because this was the first assembly election in Jammu and Kashmir in over 10 years. It's also the first assembly poll since the de-operationalization of Article 370 in 2019, which, of course, also changed the status of Jammu and Kashmir from a state to a union territory. The key poll issues in the election were Article 370, the restoration of full statehood, and unemployment. In the state of Haryana, the ruling Bharatiya Janata Party has defied all exit polls to secure a strong mandate. Out of the 90 seats, the Bharatiya Janata Party has won 48 seats, giving it not just a clear majority, but also the highest number of seats secured by the party in 10 years. Celebrations erupted not just in Haryana, but also at the Bharatiya Janata Party's office in Mumbai and the party's headquarters in New Delhi as well. And WION's special correspondent Idris Loan, who's been tracking the elections in Jammu and Kashmir, sent us this report. Listen.
After 10 long years, assembly elections were held in Jammu and Kashmir, and National Conference has swept the polls this time. To everybody's surprise, nobody was expecting that the National Conference would be in a position to form the government on its own. All the exit polls had predicted that there would be the National Conference and Congress would be in a safer position to form the government, but National Conference at 42, which means they just require a couple of more seats to form the government in Jammu and Kashmir. Although the National Conference leaders making it very clear that the government would be made in coalition with the Congress leaders. However, Dr. Farooq Abdullah also making it very clear that Umar Abdullah is going to be the next Chief Minister of Jammu and Kashmir. With video journalist Feroz Idris Loan for WION World is One.
And also to give us more perspective as to how this election will be looked very carefully, we're being joined by Mr. Harish Batra, who's from Brands and Business Strategies, who's a Brands and Business Strategy specialist and a founder of Harish Batra Consults. He's joining us live from Bengaluru. Mr. Batra, thank you very much indeed for taking time out and speaking to us here in WION. Let me in fact start off by asking you about this very crucial election that took place in Jammu and Kashmir. The elections were held after a span of 10 years. This was after the abrogation of Article 370. The Jammu Kashmiri people had a lot of things perhaps to say in terms of how they felt about all of these things. Do you think this election that has now gone off so smoothly and has also thrown up a pretty stable verdict has to a very large extent expressed the emotions of the people of Jammu and Kashmir?
Firstly, we have had a very peaceful election in Jammu and Kashmir. So hats off to the way in which the elections were carried out. And this compliment goes to the people of Jammu and Kashmir and equally our law enforcement agencies who have done a terrific job. Now, if you look at Jammu and Kashmir, I think, or any election, an election is a moment of time when people make their minds clear. They come out of the closet and possibly talk about anything that's important to them. So I think the people of Jammu and Kashmir have spoken. They've given a huge mandate to the National Conference Plus. And I think they have said that this is the type of governance I want, this is the type of government I want, and this is the kind of story that I'm looking forward as far as Jammu and Kashmir is concerned. So I think, the fact that, there's a clear mandate is a very good thing for Jammu and Kashmir. And I think after 10 long years, in comes, an election, and the people seem to have decided quite decisively.
And just to stay a little bit more with Jammu and Kashmir. Do you think this election now puts behind the bitterness which some people felt about the abrogation of Article 370? Is that conversation now going to end, at least politically, and more the focus will be on getting the statehood back for Jammu and Kashmir?
I think it will be that, because, I think the people are going to be satisfied and the people are going to say that we have had an election. That itself, right in the beginning, is a great thing. Because, a person's mind is like a pressure cooker. And I think, if the pressure is let off, the person feels more at peace. And I think the electorate of Jammu and Kashmir has possibly looked at this election as a letting off the steam. And to that extent, the mandate is made. They voted in a clear governance structure, a clear government, without any kind of a hiccup as to who's going to come in. And they seem to have been made up their mind. If you really look at the PDP and the National Conference, you will suddenly see that, the entire thing has moved. What PDP enjoyed in the last election in 2014, the National Conference enjoys today. And I think with a bigger mandate than anything that comes by. So I think all is good that ends well.
All right. We also need to talk about the state of Haryana. And this has been a verdict that very few pollsters predicted. In your opinion, what do you think has actually happened here? Did the Bharatiya Janata Party snatch victory from the jaws of defeat, or did the Congress snatch defeat from the jaws of victory? What has happened here?
Okay. The government in Haryana, 10 long years of governance, and then a government comes back. That is the big story. It simply means to say two or three things. One, of course, the overall overarching point I want to make is the pollster has been drubbed in this election once again. Exit polls, I don't know why we trust them. Even today, they just don't work. Point number two I want to make is the fact that, this election had no wave. There was no clear wave towards the Bharatiya Janata Party. It couldn't have been that because it was, if at all, anti-incumbency. And there was certainly no clear wave towards the Congress. And the election seemed to have become bipolar in Haryana. And to that extent, I think when there's no wave in an election, when a particular party wins, it means it wins because of very clear and good election management. I think hats off to the BJP for managing the election so well at the micro level. It also means one more thing. This election is an election where the RSS was back in the fray in the campaign with gusto. And the RSS plus the BJP is a powerful force because at the grassroots level, the RSS rules. And I think it's the comeback of that combo with gusto.
It's an interesting combination that you're talking about, the Bharatiya Janata Party and also the RSS. But leading up to the polls, over the course of the last 3-4 years, what we had been witnessing were farmers' protests. And Haryana was one of those states which was hugely impacted by this. We also saw the wrestlers protesting in a very vehement manner against what they said were policies that were just not something that the government should have stood by. Do you think those issues just did not play up in this election, or did the pollsters just not read the sentiment that was there on the ground, where people, for the last 10 years, they've had the Bharatiya Janata Party government and they were pretty happy with it?
Well, I would put it this way, that for the opposition, for the Congress, it is a missed opportunity. I don't think they did everything that was meant to be done to actually package the stories and take it back to the people. There was a wee bit of an overconfidence. This business, this old-minded attitude to say that, anti-incumbency is always there, it comes to my rescue, just doesn't happen. In fact, this election victory is Mr. Amit Shah's victory. And to that extent, this is what I would call Shah Niti, Amit Shah Niti, playing wonderfully and actually converting a loss into a win. And a no-wave election, an anti-incumbency election being converted into a win for the BJP, that is the big story. And that is the success of Amit Shah.
Absolutely needed. And the BJP will say that this was a pro-incumbency verdict that the people have given. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Bijur, for joining us and getting us that perspective there.
Thank you.
All right, from the elections in India, let's now shift our attention to the elections in the United States. Now, the action-packed US presidential race is going right down to the wire. Both camps are pulling out all stops in an election that is full of unexpected twists and turns. And this race is as close as it can get, with popularity polls revealing a very slim margin between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Now, according to the latest Reuters Ipsos poll, the Democrat presidential nominee Kamala Harris has registered only a 3% lead over her Republican rival Donald Trump in the weeks leading up so far. Now, the national average shows Harris at 46%, with Trump, believe it or not, trailing at 43%. But when it comes to critical issues on the ballot, it is a completely different story. On the question of economy, American voters feel that Donald Trump is in fact better suited as president, with 44% of the electorate favoring him and only about 38% of the Americans favoring Kamala Harris on the issue of economy. Now, the voters were also asked about who they prefer on the basis of mental acuity. While Joe Biden had suffered immensely on this front, his successor Kamala Harris is in a much better position. Now, 55% of those who were quizzed agreed that Harris is mentally sharp and is able to deal with challenges, while 46% of the people felt the same way about Donald Trump. Now, both candidates have been making regular appearances in various interviews and as part of an intensified last phase of the campaign. In a radio interview, Trump launched a fresh attack on Harris on the topic of immigration. Criticizing his rival, Trump brought up the government figures, saying that there were 13,000 immigrants in the United States of America who were not in the federal immigration detention despite homicide convictions against their name. Now, in his previous rhetoric, Trump had said that migrants are poisoning the gene pool of the country. The White House swiftly condemned Donald Trump's comments as vile and said that this type of language has got no place in the United States of America. Meanwhile, Vice President Kamala Harris on the popular Call Her Daddy podcast opened up on issues of abortion, sexual abuse, and a whole host of other things. In the roughly 40-minute-long interview, the Democrat presidential nominee hit out at Trump, saying that he's full of lies and slammed him on the issue of abortion. On economy, Harris defended the Biden administration's track record, pointing out to low unemployment numbers. She said that she's going to make sure that the richest who can afford it will pay their fair share of taxes.
I have been privileged.
Amidst all the political rhetoric, claims and counterclaims, issues on the ground are causing some severe challenges to the voting process. The battleground state of North Carolina is reeling with the aftermath of Hurricane Helene. Now, given the circumstances on ground, the state's election board voted on Monday to give the affected residents a greater flexibility to vote. Polling officials have approved the changes, with the objective of making it easier for voters in areas devastated by the hurricane to cast ballots in the 5th of November presidential elections. Now, the changes to the voting process have now granted flexibility to local election officials in the state so as to try and ensure that residents in the western part of the state will be able to vote, given how roads and communication networks are still disrupted in the region. Now, the crucial decision comes just days ahead of the early voting in the state. Now, voting by mail is already underway in the battleground state. Now, voters in 13 counties of North Carolina have been heavily affected by the storm triggered by the hurricane. But they now have additional alternatives to obtain and to deliver absentee ballots, along with flexibility to officials to change schedules as per circumstances. Now, voters will also be able to drop off their ballots at any county board of elections in the state or any polling sites in their counties, given the conditions that are prevalent. Now, just weeks after being appointed as France's Prime Minister, Michel Barnier is facing a no-confidence motion in the French Parliament. Now, the motion was introduced by the left-wing parties last week and comes as Barnier's first crucial test, as the parliamentarians will be voting to decide if the veteran leader's right-leaning government can still hold on to power. Does it have the majority in the parliament? The left-wing alliance, New Popular Front, emerged victorious on the most number of seats, even though the far-right National Party emerged as the single largest party in the parliament. The lawmakers from the Left Alliance are seemingly unhappy that the French President Emmanuel Macron hand-picked this right-leaning Prime Minister Michel Barnier and has made their intentions clear to introduce a no-confidence vote.
Today's vote on the motion of censure is a moment of truth to determine whether we will support or oppose the government. We in the Socialist Group believe that this motion of censure is also a sign, a political sign, an opportunity to break with the past. We want to reiterate that we are ready to work towards a compromise with those who want to embody a political alternative, both social and ecological, to the policies that the Macronists have pursued for 7 years.
Now, according to reports, Michel Barnier and his centre-right cabinet is expected to survive the no-confidence vote with the support of the far-right parties. The motion against Barnier needs 289 votes to pass. And we earlier spoke with our correspondent Ross Cullen, who joined us live from Palace, listening to what he had to say.
Yes, he's expected to survive this no-confidence vote this afternoon here in Paris, because the left-wing alliance that is going to be voting in favour of that won't have enough votes to topple the government. But it is meant to be a significant vote as well, marking that this is not going to be an easy ride for Michel Barnier. Now, the leader of the Socialist Party, one of the 4 parties that make up the left-wing alliance, which won the most number of MPs in the election, has said that it is sad. He's angry that in his words, the far right, the National Rally, are going to support the government this time around. And indeed, although the far right are also in opposition, like the left-wing alliance, they have chosen to hold their fire for now. Marine Le Pen and her colleagues not expected to vote with the left to bring down the government. They say that Prime Minister Barnier deserves some more time to try to put forward his proposals, and all eyes will now be on Thursday when his new finance minister and his new budget minister present the budget. And that is something that is being watched very closely, not just here in Paris, but also in the European Union, where France has come up against fiscal regulations that need to be satisfied. France has a colossal deficit as well. We know there are tax rises coming, and so there's going to be more pressure on Michel Barnier later this week. But today he's likely to survive that no-confidence vote. There's something else I should point out. The left-wing alliance, the hard left part of that alliance, has also put forward a proposal to try to get Emmanuel Macron, the president, impeached. Now, that was thrown out this morning by a group, one of the top commissions of the different leaders in the National Assembly. But the far left has said, OK, you've thrown it out, we will simply just put a new proposal on the table. They are determined to keep the pressure not just on the Prime Minister, but on the President. They want him to be impeached, although that is very unlikely. The far left say it is something that they are intending to continue to try to do.
Pakistani authorities have imposed a ban on Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, or the PTM, citing threats to national peace and security. Now, according to a notification issued by the Interior Ministry, PTM poses a significant danger to public order and safety in the country, and also warns in being in the first schedule of anti-terrorism attack as a proscribed organisation. The move comes in the lead-up to the PTM-initiated Pashtun Qawmi Jirga, a grand convention scheduled for the 11th of October. In recent days, security agencies in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa had come under fire for raids on PTM camps. The PTM, which is not a political party, has largely held peaceful rallies demanding for better protection from the state. It said that more than 200 activists have been arrested in recent days in advance for Jirga. The PTM is known for its strident criticism of Pakistan's powerful military for its role in the alleged enforced disappearances and extrajudicial killings of rights activists and ethnic leaders. For quite some months now, the situation in Pakistan remains precarious. And over the weekend, supporters of Imran Khan tried to stage a protest at the D Chowk amidst the imposition of Section 144. Now, hundreds of riot police fired tear gas and charged with batons as supporters of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf gathered to protest in the cities of Islamabad and Lahore. Meanwhile, Imran Khan has filed for an urgent appeal to the United Nations Special Rapporteur on judges and lawyers over proposed constitutional amendments. Now, the appeal concerns the proposed 26th Amendment to the Constitution of Pakistan, which has emerged as the latest flashpoint between the government and the opposition in the country. The proposals are alleged to pose a threat to the independence of the judiciary, the rule of law and the protection of fundamental rights of the people of Pakistan, including for Imran Khan and his supporters. And WION's Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik has sent us this report from Islamabad. Listen in.
The Pakistani government has banned Pashtun Tahaffuz movement, also known as PTM, as a proscribed organization, listing it as a proscribed organization, citing security concerns without delving much into the details as to what really are these security concerns. Now, it is pertinent to mention that PTM was founded in 2014. It's a Pashtun rights movement, and it took place in 2017 due to the following the killing of Naqibullah Mahsood at the hands of Karachi police. Now, that being said, there have been PTM MPs, MNAs who have contested previously as independent MPs and have in fact supported the Shehbaz Sharif government during the ouster of Imran Khan. Now, this decision has been criticized by political opponents, but at the same time, allies of the government continue to remain silent, including the Pakistan People's Party. Anas Malik in Islamabad, Pakistan for WION World is One.
And with that's the wrap on this edition of Race to Power. Thanks for watching.
Everyone loves a contest. But sport isn't just about victory and defeat. When the GOATs in sport speak, you hear it first on WION.
You have to play good cricket over a period of time.
I actually pushed myself right out of the damn tournament.
We go beyond the stats. Our stories are quoted the world over.
At WION, sport is part of our DNA. Come, join us on this journey. Weekdays 6:30 p.m. IST, 1 p.m. GMT.
WION brings you a special business talk show where we bring forth the stories of business leaders.
From breakthrough technologies to visionary leadership. We will unlock the trends, the tactics, and dive into the minds of the industry